Have you ever caught yourself scrolling through old photos at 2 a.m., heart aching for a time that feels safer, sweeter, only to wake up feeling more hollow than before? Nostalgia isn't just a warm, fuzzy blanket. It's a subtle form of self-torture that sneaks in and holds you hostage. Look, I'm not saying every fond memory is a trap waiting to spring. Far from it. Nostalgia, at its core, is our mind's way of seeking comfort in chaos, a psychological lifeline when life gets messy. But when it lingers too long, turning into a habit of romanticizing what was, it starts to erode the very ground you're standing on. It's like sipping poison disguised as honey, sweet in the moment, but it leaves you weaker, more isolated from the life unfolding right now. Why does something so seemingly innocent pull us into this quiet pain? Let's unpack it from a psychological lens, step by step, so you can spot it in your own life and finally break free. First off, nostalgia acts like an emotional anchor, chaining us to the past and making forward motion feel impossible. This draws on temporal discounting, a concept where we undervalue future rewards due to their delay, amplified here by the vivid pull of familiar past experiences that make tomorrow feel distant and unreliable. Think about Sarah, that friend of yours who's been single for years, replaying her college romance like it's the plot of a rom-com rerun. Every time a new date flops, she dives back into those faded emails and mixtapes, whispering to herself, "It was never this hard back then." But here's the rub. That relationship ended for a reason. Maybe it was toxic. Maybe it just ran its course. By anchoring herself there, Sarah isn't honoring the love. She's using it as an excuse to avoid the vulnerability of trying again. It's self-torture because it whispers, "You're safer in the ruins," when really, it's just keeping you from building something new. As the great psychologist William James once said, "The art of being wise is the art of knowing what to overlook." Nostalgia makes us overlook the doors opening ahead, all while we're busy polishing the locks on the ones we already closed. And that leads us to the second point. It warps our memories into flawless fantasies, breeding a quiet resentment toward the present that's hard to shake. This is rooted in what's known as rosy retrospection bias, our brain's sneaky habit of airbrushing the past, stripping away the grit, and leaving only the glow. Picture Mike, the guy in his 40s who's climbed the corporate ladder but can't stop mooning over his glory days backpacking through Europe in his 20s. At family dinners, he zones out, lost in tales of endless adventures and zero responsibilities, while his kids tug at his sleeve asking for a story about now. The truth? Those trips were full of blisters, bad decisions, and homesickness he conveniently forgets. But by idealizing them, Mike turns his current life steady job, loving family into a pale imitation. It's torture because it plants this insidious seed. Nothing will ever measure up. Suddenly, every promotion feels like a consolation prize. Every laugh with his spouse a shadow of the real fun he once had. We start chasing ghosts, and in the process, we ghost the people and possibilities right in front of us. Remember, the past isn't a museum to worship. It's a classroom we graduated from long ago. Next, let's talk about how nostalgia fuels a cycle of rumination, that endless mental loop where we chew on old wounds until they fester. In cognitive psychology, rumination is like a hamster wheel for the heart. It keeps you spinning without going anywhere, amplifying negative emotions under the guise of reflection. Take Lisa, who lost her job during the pandemic, and now, 2 years later, still pores over her old performance reviews from her dream role at the ad agency. She'll spend evenings curled up with a glass of wine, replaying boardroom triumphs and what-ifs. If only I'd spoken up more, I'd still be there. But those reviews? They praised her creativity while gently noting her burnout clues she ignored back then. Now, rumination turns that into self-flagellation. I blew it. I'll never be that good again. It's mild torture because it masquerades as wisdom. I'm just learning from my mistakes. But really, it's replaying the pain on loop, blocking her from updating her resume or networking at that local meetup. Studies from the American Psychological Association show rumination significantly increases the risk of depression by trapping us in if-only thinking. Break the cycle. It's simple, yet revolutionary. Treat memories like old mixtapes, play them once for the nostalgia hit, then file them away. Clinging turns the volume up on sorrow, Letting go lets you hear the music of today. Diving deeper, nostalgia often stems from an unmet need for belonging, pulling us back to safer tribes that no longer fit, and in doing so, it isolates us from the connections we crave now. Social psychologists like Roy Baumeister highlight how humans are wired for relatedness. It's one of our core motivations. But when life shifts, a move, a breakup, a career pivot, we default to past affiliations for that hit of security. Consider Alex, fresh out of a divorce, who can't stop idealizing his college fraternity brothers as the unbreakable band of brothers they once were. He scrolls their group chat from years ago, laughing at inside jokes that now feel distant, while dodging invites to new social circles because it's not the same. Those guys? Half are married with kids. Scattered across states, the bond evolved, just like him. But by romanticizing the past crew, Alex tortures himself with loneliness in the present, missing out on the bar trivia night where he could have met someone who gets his current jokes. It's a self-inflicted exile. We mourn the group we outgrew, instead of auditioning for the one we're ready for. As Baumeister and Leary put it, the need to belong is a powerful, fundamental, and extremely pervasive motivation. Nostalgia fools us into thinking belonging is a relic. Truth is, it's a renewable resource, waiting in the uncharted conversations ahead. Finally, on a subtler note, this habit reinforces a scarcity mindset where we hoard emotional scraps from yesterday because we're convinced tomorrow won't deliver. Evolutionary psychologists trace this to our ancestors' survival instincts, stockpiling resources in lean times, but in modern life, it manifests as an emotional miserliness that starves our growth. Envision Elena, an artist in her 30s, who's buried under sketchbooks from her prolific phase in art school. She dusts them off during slumps, sighing over the raw passion she lost after entering the real world of deadlines and doubt. Those drawings? They were experiments, full of beginner's fire, but lacking the depth her seasoned eye brings now. Yet scarcity whispers, "That was your peak, don't risk falling short." So she stalls on new projects, her canvas blank, torturing herself with what was, instead of unleashing what could be. It's the ultimate con. Nostalgia promises abundance by resurrecting old treasures, but it hoards our energy, leaving us depleted for the feast of possibilities ahead. Shift to abundance, and suddenly the past becomes fertilizer, not a fence. So, why do we do this to ourselves? Because in a world that moves at warp speed, nostalgia feels like a rebellion, a soft rebellion against the unknown. But here's the deeper truth. It's not about erasing the past. It's about honoring it without letting it handcuff your hands. Imagine a life where memories are sparks, not chains lighting up your stories without burning down your bridge to tomorrow. That's the freedom on the other side. A present that's not shadowed by what was, but illuminated by what's next. You deserve that expansive ease, where yesterday informs your steps but doesn't dictate them. It's not weakness to let go. It's the boldest act of self-compassion there is. If this hit home, if you've ever let a memory moonlight as your muse while your real life waits in the wings, drop a comment below. What's one nostalgic habit you're ready to release? Hit that subscribe button for more unfiltered dives into the psychology of living lighter, and turn on notifications so you never miss a tool to untangle your mind. Your future self? She's cheering you on. See you in the next one.